Oh boy. I got a bit of a doozy for you guys. And this, I admit, isn't history related, though it is rail fanning related, as well as railway related by extension. And normally I wouldn't cover something like this, but it is something that's kind of history in the making, at least on a small scale, and it's such a mess that I just had to make a video about it. And I'm gonna warn you that stuff gets pretty serious, like, legitimately, and I'm not just talking about horrific company mismanagement, although that is a major component of the situation. We're talking about the Blackwell Northern Gateway Railroad, or BNGR. This railroad is a short line. It's headquartered in Blackwell, Oklahoma. And they actually ran on trackage that was owned by the Blackwell Industrial Authority and the Oklahoma Department of Transportation. This company was actually a replacement for the Blackwell and Northern Railway, which started service over the same line on November 4th, 2002. And they had actually replaced the prior operator, the South Kansas and Oklahoma Railroad. BNGR, in particular, was chartered on October 31st, 2005, and contracted to replace the BNR in late 2005. They would begin official operations January 2nd, 2006. They operated on roughly 35.26 miles of line from Blackwell to Hunnewell, Kansas, with trackage rights running to Wellington, Kansas. And their major interchange partner was BNSF, though BNSF would also transport stuff to Union Pacific if need be. They would also store rail cars for the larger railroads and generate revenue in that manner. And as of 2017, they only had 8 employees. It was a very small but respectable outfit. That was until October of 2023. So the company would wind up falling under new ownership. There are 2 partners when it comes to BNG based on my sources. One of them is somewhat anonymous. I could not determine exactly what his name is, but it's kind of irrelevant because in his case, he remained in California and simply allowed the other partner to actually run the railway. This isn't unheard of. Sometimes people own companies just to make money off of them. They'll let other people run them and generate a small profit for themselves by being the owner. So that's fine. But his trust in his partner was apparently somewhat misplaced. The other partner's name is Noah McCann, and following a derailment in late December, the FRA began to do an investigation into the railroad to figure out, why that happened. And the investigation, turned out some alarming results. Very alarming results. There were at least 97 violations found, including 5 forged documents, and at least 15 personal violations. Obviously, that's a long list of violations to go over, but I'll give you the major points of contention. They were operating locomotives that were not safe for use under federal law, as they had not been properly inspected. They were allowing locomotives to be operated by persons not properly qualified as engineers. More on that later. They failed to qualify engineers or conductors under any program in accordance with FRA regulations, and they maintained no records of track inspections, no records of employees designated or qualified to perform track inspections, and no records of workers trained to use maintenance equipment or perform safety essential functions. Basically, Noah wasn't doing anything you're supposed to do when you're running a railroad in the modern day. There are rules in place for a reason, mostly to prevent you from killing somebody, because this is very heavy equipment. But Noah seems to have been running the railroad as if it was his own personal giant model railway. And look, fam, model railways are one thing, but these are actual locomotives, actual trains with actual goods for actual people that want their things to get to a certain place in a timely manner so they can do their own business. Also, it'd be really great if you could do that without possibly murdering somebody. And if that sounds really bad, it's because it is. So bad that the FRA issued an emergency shutdown order, which I should probably stress, they don't do that very often. The FRA has only existed as an entity for roughly 50 years, and in 50 years, they've done it exactly 33 times. That's not something they do every day, but it was something they did in this case, because frankly the results of their investigations were absolutely horrifying. Nothing was being done in accordance with the law, and most news media only scratch the surface. They say there's violations and give you the vague rundown of the violations and say that it's a big deal that it was shut down, but what isn't exactly common knowledge, and this is the part where I'm getting information from insiders who have more intimate knowledge of the company's dealings, and unfortunately I can't directly verify the following. I want to stress that. This isn't coming from official news media, this is coming from word of mouth, but it does sound legitimate. But again, take it with a grain of salt because I'm not 100%. But according to this part of the information, among the forged document issue included Noah's own engineer card. He wasn't even licensed to be operating the locomotives. He never bothered to do it. And yes, indeed, there were at least 2 occasions that I can verify where he personally was operating the locomotives. And he wasn't the only unqualified person doing that. Oh no. See, Noah had been having local railfans, and I mean like 14 to 16-year-old teenagers, play conductor and engineer instead of using actual crews. And according to the news media, at least one accident happened while a minor was on the crew. Probably because, if I had to guess, teenagers aren't exactly trained to know how to handle actual locomotives. But Noah allowed these kids to effectively run his line, and I can't even verify if he was really paying them or just letting them play on the railroad. But either way, this is just insane. You don't do that. This is a business, not a playground. This is a railway, not an amusement park. I get that rail fans are pretty excitable and definitely would leave with the chance to maybe tour the grounds or see the inside of a diesel locomotive. That's one thing. But actually run a train? Actually run one of the scheduled routes to deliver actual goods for actual people? Where something could easily go wrong, like a derailment that could kill somebody, including them? Like, honestly, Noah should be thanking his lucky stars that nobody's gotten hurt so far. So if it wasn't obvious, this is already just, like, the opposite of the way someone should properly run a railway. I think that's a fair assessment, because holy crap. But there's more to this when it comes to Noah McCann. And this is where things are getting very dark. I just want to warn you now. And this is also part of the information that is not in the official news channels. But it is something that's being tossed around, and if it is true, I take it very seriously, because... Alright, I'll just tell you. Alright, so Noah McCann is in his early 30s, as far as I know. Which, that's fine. But he really likes hanging out with teenagers. Obviously, he was having them run the lines. This includes a 15-year-old girl. This girl... he's apparently dating, quote unquote, which I don't think that's the right word in this situation, as she is a minor and he is in his early 30s. That would be, I believe, grooming, or perhaps a more extreme word. There's a lot of words I could throw around, like especially heinous, for example. I think that is a good way to put it. Apparently he met her at a nearby rail museum, and he, just straight up gifted her one of the diesel locomotives. He just gave her one. Have a locomotive. That's a normal thing to do, right? You just give your underage girlfriend a locomotive. Like, this is all disgusting. So many alarm bells are going off, and justifiably so, because this is absolutely horrific. Because it'd be one thing to just be bad at business. It'd be one thing to be, you know, playing model trains with actual trains. I mean, that's bad enough, but at least there, in the worst case scenario, you're just really bad at your job. But the whole thing with the 15-year-old girl puts this in an entirely different perspective when it comes to this guy. And it alarms me because we don't need this kind of stuff in the community, like, ever. This is absolutely unacceptable. But it wouldn't be the first time an innocent hobby was used as a medium for an older individual to take advantage of someone way too young. And it seems to be that might be the case with Noah. But again, this is information that's coming to me not through official channels, so I can't verify it directly, but if it is true, that's gross. That's horrible. You're horrible. You're the worst. But even if it isn't true, the best case scenario here is that Noah McCann should never run a railway. The worst case scenario is still Noah McCann should never run a railway. Also, probably should be in prison. That's the second thing. I think that's a fair way to put it. 'Cause no, absolutely not. I guess it's just the difference between being an idiot and being an especially heinous idiot. One of the two things. But yeah, that's the situation. There was a lot to unpack there, a lot more than you'd think. And it's gross, but ideally, new ownership will come in and run the railway properly, and Noah will stop being allowed around children. At all.